Open air outdoors.
Hey, let's talk canoe. I have here a canoe right there. That's an old canoe, and I'm gonna call it an antique. Let's take a look at this thing. How cool is that, right? Everyone, if this canoe is not an antique, it is at the very least vintage. But nonetheless, I love to look at these old things. She's an old one, and she's a beauty. Beat up and misused and abused, and this thing has seen countless years of love, and it's still great to see it. Unfortunately, this canoe will probably fall in disrepair, and because it's forgotten here in this old abandoned trapper's cabin, probably is going to end up getting destroyed. Eventually, the roof is going to leak, and this canoe is going to be in there, and it's just going to rot away, most likely. But I'll show you a little bit of what's going on here, and there's a few things about this canoe that makes it interesting to me. And that is the hardware, for one, is all solid brass. Everywhere where there's a screw, it's brass. And the seat, the hardware for the seat is all brass. Most of the varnish is worn off. But the bottom of this canoe, this would have been a cedar canvas wrapped in canvas, but somewhere in time, this canoe was glassed over. Probably the canvas was worn out, started leaking, whatnot, and the cheap way, the easiest way to repair that would have been to buy a couple of cans of fiberglass resin, and you glass it over and call it a day. You know, these canoes, most people today, they look at canoes like this and it's a vintage canoe and they love to paddle it and all that, but you know, at one time these were tools. It was not a romantic thing to just go canoeing. This was used to go trapping in these bushes. In this old trapline cabin, this canoe would have been used to go set out snares and traps and trap beaver and this kind of activity. But I'm calling it an antique, and I'm going to show you why. There's something about this canoe that you just don't see anymore. And it's this right here. If you look at this thwart, there's some webbing. And this webbing serves a very specific purpose. You'll notice that the canoe does not have a carrying yoke. This webbing, the purpose of that is you take two canoe paddles and you insert your canoe blade underneath that webbing. And then the canoe the canoe shaft, the paddle shaft would lay over that way. Same thing, you put two of them, then you tie your canoe shaft to the seat, and those two canoe paddles going that way now becomes your carrying yoke. You can take your canoe, flip it on, and you have your canoe paddles are sitting on your shoulders, and then you portage your canoe like that. Nobody does this anymore. Absolutely no one. That's why I'm calling this an antique canoe. I wish I could date this thing. I have no idea. If you look at the gunnels, heavily worn. That's from years of paddling, and you're rubbing the edges with your canoe paddle, eh? That's what that is. It's heavily worn out. That's from years of use, and you're paddling, and your canoe paddle rubs the gunnel, and that wears it out. I'm going to take the camera and I'm going to pan over this canoe and I'll show you what it looks like. About 14 feet in length. This seat is most certainly not the original. It doesn't even have the same color varnish as the rest, and it has had a crude repair, probably moose hide. A lot of wear and tear on the gunnel. Years of paddling this thing, rubbing a canoe paddle on the gunnel has worn it down. There's the webbing I was talking about earlier, where you slide your canoe paddle blade in. I don't see any badge or stickers anywhere that would indicate who the maker of this canoe is. It'd be interesting to know. Interesting for me anyways. I know some of you are interested in this kind of stuff as well. And I believe one way to identify old canoes is the deck. All canoe makers had their own way of making their decks. So that could be the sign for those who are knowledgeable on that. Okay, let's flip this canoe over and take a quick look at the hull. You can see layers and layers of fiberglass, and actually right here you can actually see the canvas where the fiberglass has chipped away, and you can see the original canvas in behind there. If only it could talk, the stories it would tell, eh? There's them brass screws I was talking about. All the hardware, everything is brass. Hey, this is just a quick little video here today. I hope you enjoyed the little tour of the vintage canoe that's out here in the middle of nowhere. I love to show off this kind of stuff. Really like to show it because I know some people really love to see it. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to subscribe. Give me a comment down below. I love replying to comment, and don't forget that thumbs up. See you on the next one.